Giants head to New Orleans to take on the Saints, and I'm a little concerned, to be honest. Welcome to the Empire State Sports Report. I'm your host, Adrianna, also known as New York Giants fangirl across social media. Make sure you guys are following along on there. That is the place where I get out all of the updates as soon as they happen. New York Giants fangirl on social media. So before we get into the Saints, we have to talk about the podcast quickly. The podcast is brought to you by Believe Network and FanDuel Sportsbook. FanDuel Sportsbook is the number one place to make all of your bets. Please bet responsibly. If you are looking for some money lines, let's run through some Sunday football games, shall we? Vikings take on the Browns in London. That is a 9:30 a.m. start. I know we all love a Sunday morning football game as we enjoy our breakfast. The Vikings are the favorites here, minus 188. The Browns are plus 158. And the Giants take on the Saints on Sunday. We all know this, 1 p.m. The Giants were the favorite when the schedule came out. This was the only game that the Giants were favorited in until Monday morning after Malik Neighbors got injured. They are now the underdogs at plus 108 to win this game. The Saints are minus 126, but it's only a 1.5 point swing. Then we have the Raiders Colts. The Colts are the favorite, minus 320. Danny Dimes going to bounce back and get this team a win? I think so. Texans at Ravens. The Texans are the favorites here, minus 130. The Ravens are dealing with a lot of injury issues. I'm taking the Texans on that one. And then lastly, for this quick rundown, Denver Broncos at Eagles. And I know that we all want the Broncos to go in there and whoop up on the Birds. So Broncos, Bo Nix, Sean Payton, please don't let us down. We're rooting for you. Let's do it. The Broncos are the underdogs at plus 126. So again, make sure you bet responsibly. Get all of your sports betting needs available at FanDuel Sportsbook. All right, guys, let's go ahead and talk about the Saints versus the Giants. So I want to start with practice squad, and then we're going to talk injury updates, and then players to watch and what the Giants have to do to win. So starting with the practice squad and the roster. So as of right now, the Giants have 2 open spots on the 53-man, and then they have 1 spot open on the practice squad. So the special teams coordinator, Mike Gobriel, said that it is a competition between Jude and Koo to beat out one another for the kicking role. So as of right now, we don't know who's going to be elevated from the practice squad to be the kicker, but we do know that they have 2 spots available. One of them is going to be a kicker. And then I think the second one is going to be a wide receiver, because how do you not bring up little Jordan Humphrey? I think that makes the most amount of sense. And if it was up to me and they had more spots available, I would also bring up Turbo, but I don't think they're going to do that this week, knowing that they need wide receiver help so desperately with Malik Neighbors out. Another point that Dan Duggan brought up, which I think this is a good one, that linebacker Neville Hewitt has been playing on special teams and he's done a relatively good job. So if the Giants want to bring him up, they'll have to sign one of the guys to the 53-man roster in order to create that spot for him. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Giants do. They don't make these practice squad elevations until Saturday, so we will know then. So again, make sure you're following on social, because I will be there as soon as it is available. And then I'm sure we'll find out on Sunday morning, that Evan Neal is going to be inactive and that we're probably going to see a lot of Jalen Hyatt. So we can look forward to that. With that being said, I want to talk through the injuries, because there were quite a few guys listed as limited on Thursday's practice. And when I'm recording this on Friday, it's before the injury report comes out. But the good news is that Daboll said that basically everyone is going to be good to go. The only person he's not sure about is running back Tyrone Tracy Jr. He's dealing with a dislocated shoulder. I would be absolutely shocked if Tracy is ready to go for Sunday, so I'm not expecting that. But for the injury report on Thursday, Dexter Lawrence was the only other player who was listed as did not practice, and he's dealing with an illness. But Daboll said he was in the building on Friday, and he was doing some stuff on the side with the trainers. So he said that Dexter should be good to go, nothing to worry about there. From what I know, the people that I know around me, and it sounds like what's going on in the locker room, Brian Burns was sick last week. There's something going around. I don't know if it's the flu, COVID, who knows what it is. I don't think anyone really knows, but everyone stay healthy. Take your vitamin C. I take oregano oil. That works for me. And hope for the best that you don't get sick, because we need Dexter Lawrence at 100% participation rate on Sunday. And like Daboll said, he's probably going to be fine. So he's just been getting his rest days. The guys that were limited on Thursday were Dane Belton, DJ Davidson, Chauncey Golston, Javon Holland, Tyler Nubin, Nacho, JMS, and Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas, they have listed as a foot/rest. So Daboll confirmed that was a pre-planned rest day due to his plan on coming back to play football. So nothing to worry about there. I want to call out a couple guys on here. Tyler Nubin did not practice on Wednesday. So the fact that he was moved to limited on Thursday, which is huge. We don't have a lot of depth at safety. So Tyler Nubin being ready to go is very important, especially when Javon Holland was also limited. And so was Dane Belton. But ultimately, like Daboll said, those guys are good to go. They're going to play Sunday. The other two guys I want to call out are Chauncey Golston and Nacho, because those two guys have both missed the last few games dealing with various injuries, and Nacho being good to go and ready to play on Sunday is important because we're going to need help slowing down Alvin Kamara in the run game, and Nacho is good against the run. And Chauncey Golston being back is also good because he's better than Tomon Fox, and then they won't have to elevate Tomon Fox this week to the 53. So I think overall some good news on the injury front. The last thing I want to talk about with the injuries is that there were 4 players that were full participants on Thursday: Jaxson Dart, Scat, GVR, and Russell Wilson. GVR just had a veteran rest day, so nothing to worry about there. Scat, some sort of knee injury, although it sounds like, again, he's fine. And Dart dealing with a hamstring. So nothing to worry about there. Obviously Dart took some hits during the game on Sunday. And I want to go into this next part when we talk about players to watch with Jaxson Dart. Said a couple things in his press conference on Wednesday, which I thought were interesting. So the first thing is he was asked about, how are you feeling? And do you feel like maybe you shouldn't have taken some of the hits that you did? And he basically said, I feel fine. He said the adrenaline kicks in and whatever. And he said that, a lot of the times that he's going to run to get those extra yards. He thinks that they're important. It's a part of his game. He likes being aggressive. He likes being able to run. He feels like that's one of his strengths, and that he's going to go after those extra yards. So he did say, though, that he thinks he's going to be a little bit smarter about it. And one instance that he said was that when he stiff-armed one of the Chargers players, and he joked and said he didn't like the way that he was looking at him, but he said that probably wasn't the smart idea because it was my throwing arm. So I'm going to try and improve stuff like that. So he's aware, which is the first step, right? And now the next thing is to try and improve upon that this week. So when we talk about players to watch, obviously, I know we're all laser focused on Jaxson Dart, and that's one of the things that I want to see him do. I like that he's aggressive. I hope that he never changes that, right? We saw how injuries took a toll on Daniel Jones, and he was afraid to pull the trigger on the deep ball and things like that. We don't obviously want that to happen with Jaxson Dart. And I think it's hard to find the middle ground there, but I ultimately think that he'll figure it out, and he's got an offensive line who can block for him, which is part of it. So, I want to see him continue to be aggressive, but I also want to see him slide. It doesn't have to be every time. I'm okay with him, feeling like he can tough it out and take some hits, but ultimately you can't take hits like that every time, and you have to protect your head if you don't want to be yanked out of the game into the concussion tent. So I really want to see him do that. Just be a little smarter about taking the hits. And again, please don't stiff arm people, especially with your throwing arm. The second thing I want to see from Jaxson Dart is, he talked about this in the press conference too, is he feels like he took sacks that he shouldn't have had, and that he needs to be better about throwing the ball away or making smarter decisions there. And I agree with him on that. And look, it's his first game. No one's going to kill him for that, right? But he did take 5 sacks. So again, I want to see that improved upon this week. If it goes from 5 to 4, it's a step in the right direction. Ultimately, I hope that, the offensive line gives him a little bit more time, and the Saints don't have some of the talent that the Chargers have on defense. So I think that will also benefit Jaxson Dart and this offense. So I really want to see him do that. The second thing, or the last thing, the third thing is just spread the ball around. You don't have Malik Neighbors here. So that obviously comes with the playmakers getting open, and it also calls for the plan and the play call to scheme the wide receivers open. So if they're open, I want Jaxson to make the throw. I want to see what he did last week where he motioned Slayton forward on that third down when they were in their own end zone. I love that. So I want to see Jaxson Dart continue upon that. Overall, I think he did a good job in his week one. Of course, there are things to improve upon, but I just want to see slow and steady improvement every week. I don't expect him to come out this week and light it up and throw for 400 yards and multiple touchdowns and, never get sacked and not throw the ball away and whatever. Like, the kid's not perfect. We have to have realistic expectations for him going into his second game. And I know everyone's going to come out here and say the Saints aren't a very good football team, but neither are the Giants. Let's be clear here. They are a better team than the Saints. They have better talent. They have better execution. They have, I don't really know if I would say better coaching, but maybe in certain instances they do. So you know, I think this game is going to be a little bit closer than maybe some people think that it'll be. But I am excited to watch Jaxson Dart in week 2. With that being said, my second player to watch, or the position group, is the wide receivers as a whole. And ultimately, I think it's going to be Darius Slayton. I think he is going to be the player that steps up the most out of all the wide receivers. He's been here the longest. He's a veteran in this room. He knows the playbook inside and out. He was able to forge a good relationship with Jaxson Dart throughout the summer. We saw their communication last week on that exact same play when Dart motioned him forward. So things like that, the communication is there, and Darius Slayton has proven to be a reliable vet in this league. And before anyone comes after me and says, Darius Slayton has a drops problem, you know who else has a drops problem? Every other wide receiver on this roster. Darius Slayton has actually improved his drops over the last couple of years. Little Jordan Humphrey has had some drops throughout the summer and throughout preseason. Wan'Dale Robinson dropped that ball in the goddamn end zone last week, so I don't want to hear it from anyone that, Slayton is the problem here. How about Theo Johnson, who dropped 3 out of 4 balls in week 1 and has slowly been getting better, but still has some drops? The only person who doesn't have a drops problem, as far as I'm concerned, is Daniel Bellinger and Turbo, who's sadly probably not going to be elevated. So, obviously the expectation is not that every wide receiver catches every ball that comes their way. That is unheard of. But you got to catch the ones that are catchable, right? The ball in the end zone that went off of Wan'Dale's hands, he should have come down with that. Theo Johnson should have come down with quite a few balls that came his way so far this year. Darius Slayton hasn't really gotten a lot of targets. Neighbors, it is what it is, but you just have to catch more than you drop, right? And when you're dealing with a football team right now who lost its best playmaker on offense, every single player has to step up. So I think Darius Slayton is going to be that guy. When it comes to, we talk about the wide receivers as a whole has to step up. The same thing goes for the offensive line. So I'm not specifically focused on one specific player with the offensive line. I think they did a really great job last week. But the number one thing that I need to see from this offensive line is no false start penalties. Because I want to read you guys a fun little stat. Did you know that there's a website called NFLpenalties.com where all they do is track all of the NFL penalties? This was news to me. Anyway, the Giants so far in 4 games have 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. They have 10 penalties on the offensive line. Now, James Hudson has accounted for the majority of them. He has 5 of them. So right there, of course, that's a big help, right? When you've got Andrew Thomas instead of James Hudson, who Andrew Thomas had an incredible performance last week. However, Illuminor has 2 false starts, Runyon 1 and GVR 1. And JMS 1. And look, at the end of the day, if they end up with 1 or 2 penalties, false starts throughout the game, it's not going to kill them. But they have to avoid them in the red zone. This team already struggles in the red zone to begin with or without Jaxson Dart, Malik Neighbors, Andrew Thomas, everyone else on the offense. It literally doesn't matter. They struggle there. That has to be something that they cannot allow to happen. And I am one that kind of thinks that the home field advantage, I'm making quotes right now, is a little bit shticky and kind of bullshitty, but we saw it be used for once to the Giants' advantage last week at MetLife against the Chargers. The Chargers offense had back-to-back penalties that ultimately ruined their entire offensive drive, and there wasn't just those 2 of them throughout the whole game. So the Saints fan base is going to go into this game like the Giants fan base went in last week and said, we have hope for this team. We've got Jaxson Dart. We can go out there. We can beat them. The Saints fan base is thinking the same thing. This Giants team is overrated. Jaxson Dart is probably not that good, yada, yada, whatever the Saints fans are saying to each other. They're 0-4, but they're thinking, we're at home, we're loud, we can make a difference here, and we can get in their head. And the Giants can absolutely not allow them to do that, because if they do, they're going to struggle. And you're not winning in the National Football League if you don't score touchdowns. So the offensive line, I am begging you, please, no false starts in the red zone. The loudness, the volume is absolutely going to be a factor. Jaxson Dart and Daboll talked about how all week they had the music pumping. Jaxson Dart has played in the SEC. He's played in domes. He knows the noise, but they think they can overcome it. So let's do it. That's going to be really important. Let's switch gears to the defense. I don't know if you guys heard this. Spencer Rattler was quoted as saying that the Giants' defensive secondary schemes are not as challenging or, I think, creative was the word that he used compared to some of the other schemes that they have already seen. And honestly, he's not wrong, right? We've all given Shane Bowen a whole lot of shit this year. But to hear it from a quarterback, respectfully, who has not won a game in the NFL yet, and he's going on at least his 7th starting game, is a bold choice, my friend. And, when we talk about players to watch, he did say the defensive line is very good and they have to watch out for those 4. And he's very right about that, because Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and what's his name? Abdul Carter are going to eat him for breakfast this week. So if I were Spencer, I'd be a little concerned about that. Now, Spencer's a good runner, but so is Herbert. So are a lot of the other quarterbacks that the Giants have seen so far. They've already seen Jaden Daniels and Patrick Mahomes and Dak Prescott. So, I think they're capable of being able to slow down Spencer when it comes to taking off with the ball. I really want to see this front 4 get home again. I want to see Shane Bowen blitz. He blitzed 33% of the game last week. Do it again. Put Abdul Carter at the edge position in more snaps again. The most he ever played at the edge was last week in 41. And guess what? He had his best game as a New York Giant and in the NFL so far, and one of the best games at the edge rusher position in the entire league. So you have to put players in a position to succeed. And I talk about players to watch. It has to be the front 4. I know the group, but I think that all of them are going to have success against this banged up offensive line and against a quarterback who's not seen the looks, hopefully, that Shane Bowen is going to throw at him, and has not seen a front 4 that is Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, and Abdul Carter, who are all coming off an incredible game last week against a really good offense. So I think, respectfully, Rattler is going to get his ass rattled a lot. So let's go defensive line. I'm taking all the overs on sacks. I don't know what they are yet. Let's check real quick on FanDuel, see if they're up, because Brian Burns is tied for leading the NFL with sacks with 5. I think he's going to make it 6 this week. I think Abdul Carter is going to have the opportunity to also do the same. I think he's finally going to get his first full sack of the week. And as of right now, FanDuel does not have any Giants players to record a sack, but they have 3 different Saints players to record a sack. So they have Carl Granderson, he's minus 114, Brian Bresee, minus 102, and then Cam Jordan is plus 106 to record a sack. Those are the odds on FanDuel. Check out FanDuel Sportsbooks for all of your betting needs and make sure to bet responsibly. So, like I said, that front 4, I think they're absolutely they're going to get hard after Spencer Rattler, at least I hope. So I'm excited for that. Another player that I'm focused on this week is Paulson Adebo. He has had the opportunity now for at least 3 interceptions that he has dropped. The front 4 putting pressure on Spencer Rattler is, again, no pun intended here, absolutely going to rattle the shit out of him, and he's going to turn the ball over. I feel relatively confident about that. I really want Paulson Adebo to be the one who catches those interceptions, because they used to play on the same team together. So what would be better than a Kayvon Thibodeau sacking Justin Herbert this week? It could be Paulson Adebo catching that interception from Spencer Rattler this week. That's what I want to see. Let's go, Adebo. I have confidence in him. He's played relatively well this year. I think this is the week, hopefully, that he gets his hands on the ball and comes down with it. Bring in that interception. One of the ways that the Giants are going to win this game is like they did last week. You got to win the turnover battle. You got to win the time possession battle. And they're capable. They can do it. So excited for Paulson Adebo. This could be a really big game for him, and I would love nothing more than to see it. One more player, I cannot believe I'm going to say this, you guys, and I guess maybe it's more of a special teams, even though he's a defensive player, is Tay Banks, dare I say. He was really good in the return game last week, and there were inklings coming out of the media that he had practiced on special teams during the week, but I was like, they're not really going to do this in the game, are they? They did it with Jalen Hyatt in the summer too, and then we never saw it again, and they've done it with other guys like that, and then we've never seen it. And when they trotted Banks back there, I was like, okay, this is interesting. He was damn good. I'll give him credit. He was good at something, and it was special teams. So maybe I'm excited to watch him again do that. If his biggest contribution to this football team is at this point is that he can put the offense in good field position, I'll take it. I'll sure as hell take it any day, because Cordell Flott has done enough at the cornerback 2 position, and Banks has been fine in the rotation game. But I'd rather see Tay Banks succeed on special teams and Cordell Flott succeed at CB2. And I don't know, maybe we could be looking pretty good. So this is a game that the Giants can win ultimately. I'm a little concerned because of the red zone struggles, because they're lacking neighbors, because of the noise that could affect this offense that has a history of getting false starts, especially in the red zone. But ultimately, this Giants team is better. They are more talented. They have proven that they can move the ball on offense, that they can make stops on defense, that they can force turnovers, that they can make stops when it matters, that, they have a kicker who can score extra points, and Jamie Gillen, who's coming off his best game as a punter for the New York Giants. They played complimentary football last week. If they do it again this week, there's no reason why they shouldn't beat the Saints. So I'm going to stick with the prediction that I made on Giants latest because I do think the Giants are going to win this one. And I have them winning 27-17. And I think one of those touchdowns comes because of the defense, whether it's a forced fumble, whether it is a pick six, whether it's just an interception. I think the defense is one of the reasons that they put the Giants in good field position. And this week they have a better success rate of scoring in the red zone. So I'm taking my Giants. I'm not betting on them because every time I bet on them, it doesn't work. And I think it messes with the juju. So I will not bet on them. I will bet on other teams, but in my heart, I am betting and choosing the Giants to win this football game. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Who do you think is going to win? Final score predictions, etc. And stay tuned. I will be back on Monday with a game recap. I unfortunately will not be able to live stream this game, but I will be watching and I will be recapping it on Monday. So let's hope we're recapping a win. Enjoy your weekend, guys. Thanks for listening and go Giants.